1/3 of adults don't hold the equivalent of a basic school leaving age qualification. Half of all adults have difficulty with numbers. 1 in 7 is functionally illiterate. Some ethnic minority groups, disabled people and older people, are more likely to have lower literacy and numeracy skills than the general population. Some more momentum measures. Women, particularly mothers with children under 11, suffer the greatest employment penalties. Inequality in one area is often linked to inequality in another. If you earn less, your children will have less opportunities. Some causes of the pay gap in the southwest of England: discrimination in employee pay systems, gender segregation in the workplace, a prevalence of sectors with high levels of part-time working at low pay, lack of opportunities and flexible working in higher paid jobs, poor access to affordable childcare, poor availability of higher paid jobs, and of course, it's no use having a job if you can't get there, so public transport is significant, particularly in relation to women and the economy. Tackling gender stereotyping and attitudinal barriers in the education system then is crucial, and challenging not just the numbers but also our workplace cultures. Equality, you see, is not a minority business. It's a business that affects us all. There are substantial economic and social costs of inequality, and everybody pays for those. Socioeconomic deprivation in the southwest region is particularly significant and often hidden by rurality. The effects of this kind of deprivation upon early educational achievement cannot be underestimated. A child who is 6 years old and from a poor family but really, really clever, by the time they're going to school at 6, a child who is from a richer family but not as clever as them will already have overtaken them, as the graph shows, in terms of educational attainment. In order for post-16 education to be successful for all learners, there needs to be an awareness and a recognition of what has gone on before, why the disadvantages persist, and what can be done about them. It's not good enough anymore for us to claim that we weren't aware of the issues faced by deprivation, or to blame the fact that there are not many of them here so we didn't know, or to single out specific children from Roma or Gypsy backgrounds as easy scapegoats for a system which fails to deliver educational outcomes fairly. We must improve on what we do and how we do it. We must deliver fairness. For the cost of the failure of this is unfathomable, but we will all feel the benefits of the success. Not long ago, a very brave college in the southwest asked me to conduct some research into the experiences of its BME learners and their families. They asked the question, is there some stuff around this subject area that we don't know and that we think we know? There were some surprises, both to myself and to the college. Issues of curriculum content and how the young people were experiencing the curriculum content. Issues of the teaching staff's attitudes and other staff in the college. Experiences of other learners. It was interesting that these young learners were saying that words like packy and nigger were used on a daily basis by other learners towards them in the college. Of course, the college would be unaware of that. They're also unaware that a number of the learners, particularly the boys, were constantly getting into fights around racial abuse and discrimination. And this fighting was ongoing. One young man said with tears in his eyes, all of the fights that I get into are around racism. There are issues in terms of what kind of action is appropriate to take in such cases, and of course a big issue of trust. Those learners need to trust in the institutions that they belong to, that their issues are understood and taken seriously, and also that the organisations are promoting equality for them. You see, we can't afford not to know these things in relation to education. It's our job to remove the barriers which limit what people can do and what people can be. In order to do that, we first of all need to understand what those barriers are. Such barriers can also be gendered, as we know, in education. Segregation in subject areas leads to gender segregation in the workplace. In the southwest, across areas like construction, retail and health and social care, there's much work needed in terms of gender representation. In managerial and professional occupations, men are considerably more likely to be in the high-paid roles, 33%, whereas in managerial and professional occupations in the southwest, only 23% of women are represented. Just over half of the women are more likely to be working in part-time jobs, whereas that figure for men is 14%. And of course, there's a biggie here. Learners with disabilities are attaining significantly lower success rates. Yeats, those not in education, employment or training. Not being in education, employment or training for 6 months or more between the ages of 16 and 18 is the single most powerful predictor of unemployment at the age of 21. It's particularly significant in explaining why some young people make less successful transitions to adulthood and working life. According to evidence from England, disabled young people are particularly at high risk of being a NEET between the ages of 16 and 18. Gaining a university degree brings big advantages throughout life. Employment opportunities and increased earnings. A university graduate is almost 4 times less likely to be unemployed and earn twice as much as a person with no qualifications. People from more deprived areas and backgrounds miss out on these opportunities because they're persistently less likely to enter higher education. Work remains the best and fastest route out of poverty. It's the most reliable way for individuals to achieve economic independence and prosperity. By contrast, the absence of work is the surest route to a spiral of demoralisation, loss of motivation, skills and self-confidence, worsening health and well-being for the individuals concerned. Where do we go from here? Greater equality will make our society better off and our economy stronger. Our social fabric will also be more cohesive. Gaps in educational attainment, employment rates and other opportunities impoverish us all. A more equal society puts scarce resources to better use. The more evenly resources are distributed, the more likely they are to be used where they're most needed and provide higher returns. Achieving equality means narrowing gaps in people's educational attainment, employment rates, and ensuring that there are real opportunities for everybody. A more equal society doesn't mean that we constrain growth and prosperity. On the contrary, by focusing on those groups who experience persistent disadvantage because of factors beyond their control, a more equal society uses its resources more efficiently, increases the level and quality of human capital, and creates more stability, all necessary to growth and prosperity. So a more equal society doesn't need to discourage people's desires to excel, but it does need to focus on those at the bottom end and make sure that their achievements improve at a faster rate than those at the top. In closing, we can't afford then to tolerate this kind of inequality in our society, and particularly